Today is April 29th, 2020. I'm going to be reading Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths by Shigeru Mizuki. It came out in 1973, but I got a North American press or printing or whatever version. It came out in 2011. This 2011 version was made in Quebec, Canada, or Montreal, Quebec, Canada specifically, by the group Drawn and Quarterly. Just to give a nice little introduction, which is found in the introduction of this book, to give a nice little brief explanation as to why Shigeru Mizuki made this book in the first place. Mizuki was drafted in the Imperial Army in 1943 and sent to Rabaul on the island of New Britain, in what is now part of Papua New Guinea. It was one of the worst places to be sent in the war, and quickly became a showcase for some of the worst aspects of the Imperial Army. As one of the lower-ranking late arrivals in that hierarchical and feudalistic command structure, Mizuki was constantly beaten by his superiors. While on sentry duty in the field one day, his detachment was completely wiped out in an attack by Australians and native forces. Mizuki made a harrowing escape alone back to Japanese lines, only to be reprimanded by his superiors for losing his rifle, and in Imperial Army style for surviving. He later lost his arm during a raid by Allied airplanes when he was badly wounded. After lingering on the verge of death and battling malaria, he was eventually nursed back to health. During this time, Mizuki developed a deep affection for the natives of New Guinea, and he claims to have realized that the spirit force was guiding his life. Had he not been out of commission, he probably would not have survived the war. In a fairly famous incident, a unit to which he would have been attached was sent out on a banzai or suicide charge, but miraculously survived. Since the men's glorious death had already been reported to headquarters, it was sent back to the front with orders not to return alive. These personal experiences provide the real punch for Mizuki's war stories, which are far less well known in Japan than his yokai work. Many have an anti-war theme, commiserate with the plight of the average soldier, and may be a way for him to exercise his own personal demons. So I guess one of the things that Shigeru Mizuki's known for is like having very realistic backgrounds, but the main characters being very cartoonish. If you look at the back of this book, you see about 5 soldiers. One guy is kind of cartoonish, but I mean, like it's still pretty detailed. But technically on their far left, but technically on the book's farthest right on the book, the back of the page of the book, I can't even fucking. I feel like the back of the cover. Goddamn, one of the soldiers is extremely detailed. So it's just this guy definitely can he can definitely draw. And they're also saying he's got a bunch of bronze statues. In his area, and I guess one of his quotes was "Be lazy." So I don't know, man. This guy's fucking awesome, man. This man is extremely respected in his area. Really, the only information that I know about Shigeru Mizuki is what I've read, which is not too much. I just have Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths and Kitaro. This is slightly off tangent, but I was watching a documentary on horror, just kind of it was called Why Horror. It's off of that one Shudder streaming service. Because I always liked the idea of horror and stuff, but for some reason I'm not interested very much or I never have been very interested in watching movies that purposely try to scare you. And I guess I've gotten to this point where I kind of as a kid I was terrified of some of these horror movies, especially some of the characters like Michael Myers or Jason or whatever. They were kind of going in depth of kind of the history of horror in general, and some of these artists that started drawing very very disturbing things, but they were kind of once again making statements about, well, I guess humanity in general. But and that's what I think most of horror is kind of just making statements of maybe supernatural, the just nature in general. But a lot of times just it could be about our fucking setting or environment or whatever, but also our inner nature, our how human our fucking attitudes and all that shit. Another documentary series on Shudder has it's all about like the secret history of comic books by Robert Kirkman or whatever. Like it's basically his face stamped on the documentary series or whatever. But they were talking about Superman and the trial of Superman or whatever. But there's this one point where they were drawing a comic book and they had it was kind of more or less like kind of a blending of like how books can be just books generally just nothing more than just text or whatever. Typically usually never is pictures associated with it. And one of the early issues that I saw, at least that they were showing, at least I don't know if this is totally true or not, but once again it had like pictures on a whole panel picture on one page and then text on the other for the most part. And it was kind of like and there's been like they've tried doing this kind of stuff, and I'm sure like there's books that do this kind of stuff or whatever. I don't know exactly that format would be considered, but just in general, it's just I guess what I'm getting at to get back into talking about Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths. I mean, just in general with comic books, just understanding panel layout and getting to that point of panel layout. I mean, like because once again we always had books, and then and once again going back to that horror documentary, you know what I mean, like we didn't have fucking cameras, we didn't have, I mean, people didn't always have all of this stuff available to them, so they only had a limited palette, I guess. I'm going to continue to go off tangent for, a couple more minutes or so. But, I mean, just in the long run, what I'm getting at is it's nice to know where everything started or where things came to, or, what I mean, like what came before, just it's, and I don't know, just sometimes you can't admire that as a kid. You don't really realize that. I mean, some people are, some kids, I guess, or some people in general are just able to acknowledge that at all times or whatever. But as a kid personally, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really realize, 1973 or 1943, how far away it really wasn't, but kind of is at the same time. I mean, once again, like in the last 100 years in general, I mean, like technologically, I mean, we've changed so much compared to, I mean, once again, like even, I mean, fucking, once again, not even like 200 years ago is not like this, not at all. I mean, once again, you could argue that in ways that it actually is the same, and in other ways it's fucking not. I mean, fucking, I don't want to get in, that's meta shit right there. But in a nutshell, essentially for that horror documentary, I mean, they were just showing that for horror movies in general, they started all the way back in like, cave paintings, and, they were fucking, had these monsters on the cave paintings just to like just intimidate people, and then also on like maps and stuff like that you'd see like these serpents in the water and whatnot, and it could totally scare the shit out of making people believe that there actually is some kind of monster or whatever in the middle of in the middle of this ocean or whatever. But I mean, I think there was also, I mean, just I guess once again this is now tangent of tangents, like I feel like those monsters were just kind of representing, if you go here, you're probably going to fucking die. Or you're just not going to make it. Without being really fucking prepared. I guess all I'm really trying to say is just, it's interesting to see how comics were structured and how they, are structured now. And, I mean, they're not too different now, but in other ways, they are totally different. I mean, once again, it's like, it's Captain Obvious shit. It's just like, putting two and two together. But like, once again, for paneling, once again, just like the idea of, fucking event next to the next event, tied to the next event, once again, portraying a fucking storyboard or in general a fucking story. It's just, the human beings are fucking awesome, man. Whether it's language, art, technology, medicine, science in general, fucking anything, man. It's baffling sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta fucking appreciate it all, man. I mean, I guess I know that 1973 is not that long ago, and, comics have been around since at least the 20th century. And all I'm getting at is that, just paneling in general, there's it's just, I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about it even in the same terms of like music structure and stuff. Like it's just all structure and foundation in general. It's just, interesting to see what's successful and why it's successful. And I mean, I don't know if I've even really answered that exactly. It just, I mean, I guess it looks good or it sounds good. It just feels right. And sometimes like it's as simple as that. With that circle jerk over, let's get into Onward Towards Our Noble Deaths. The setting is Kokopo, New Britain, end of 1943. The book starts off with a corporal smacking two other soldiers to tell them to go to a fucking brothel, man. As humorous as it is pretty bleak, and, it's pretty realistic. I mean, they even go into, like, the line's too long, the brothel closes at 5. So, literally, some of these soldiers, I mean, they were even saying that some of them are going to be dying as virgins. This shit is fucking real as fuck, man. I won't be doing this every time, but, Dai Nanko was the name given to the 14th century samurai Masashige Kusunagi when he was taken up as a patriotic hero after the Meiji Restoration. He was used as an inspiration for suicide missions during World War II due to the fact that he sacrificed his life for the sake of Emperor Go-Daigo. The Battle of Minato River was a decisive battle which Kusunoki lost, leading him to commit suicide. So based on the few things that I have said that literally are written in the book, kind of explaining about, Imperial Army itself, but if you don't know about this kind of stuff, but, Japan, like, if you were sent on a suicide mission, you were expected to, die. You were not allowed to come back alive. It was honorable, it was respectful, I mean, you were doing your duty, but by the end of the day, it's fucked up. When the great Dai Nanko fought the rebels at Minato River, 500 brave men died in battle alongside him. Assembled here today, we are just like those 500. If I haven't already mentioned about the artwork being pretty cartoony, but the background being pretty detailed and almost realistic, I just want to say, like, I mean, some of the panels, you see, obviously, close-ups of their faces and whatnot, and I feel like if they actually, like, if Shigeru actually, like, made it very detailed, I don't know. It just would be too serious, I guess. These characters, I mean, they're all cartoony, but it kind of makes them feel like they're almost flawed in a way. I mean, once again, you think about like the average person. I mean, I guess nowadays you just think about like an idiot probably, but I mean, like, I don't know. Once again, you look up like the definition of like a human or whatever. You know what I mean? You think like just this. Like this being that can, inhabit its surroundings naturally, normally, without a problem. But, I mean, once again, like, we don't clearly think of the, flaws of humanity to, I mean, I guess some people, that's all they think about is just the flaws of humanity. But I don't know, just once again, it's just on face value. It's just, once again, just going and just face value alone. It's very cartoony. It's very flawed. It's not as realistic as it should be. And I think it's very effective, man. I mean, with most war stories, they're going to show some of the gritty details that a soldier, once again, a human has to deal with. In this case, the torrential downpour of rain. It just doesn't stop. These soldiers are far from home, and based on this weather, some of them are getting sick. So once again, just showing that gritty detail, just more gritty. I mean, it's just not even a page into it, man. Not even a page from like when it starts raining. Regardless of the rain, they gotta build a fucking base, and some people are getting fucking hurt because they're slipping and shit. Anyone who fucks up gets punished, even if they got a fucking broken arm. And based on this book, once again, like this one dude who's got a broken arm now also has dengue fever. He's probably gonna fucking die, man. Wonder if we can eat that fruit over there. Chomp. Nope. Too bitter. If we die here, would you rather eat or fuck? I'd go for the pussy. I'd probably take the food. Motherfuckers even got ringworm. The dude did in fact die from dengue fever. Before even having to fucking fire a gun at the goddamn enemy, this motherfucker's dying before any of that shit. These dudes are barely eating, and their special holiday is New Year's Eve. And they're going to be getting pork, and the way they got to get pork is by finding a fucking pig and, killing it. And that's the only way they're going to get pork. It's not going to be given to them. It's not going to be fucking supplied to them. They have to fucking find it. Some of the soldiers are getting jealous of other soldiers' positions. Some of them only have to just watch a fucking river and just watch for boats and shit, while others gotta like cut down palm trees and bring them over to once again build the fucking base. These guys have yet to find a fucking enemy, but yet they're getting picked off one by fucking nature, man. The soldiers are crossing a river and an alligator potentially just snatches one off of a boat without anyone even realizing or noticing. Other than the fact that the guy was on a boat, but then now fucking no longer is. You just fucking look away for 1 second and they're fucking gone. So instead of finding that pig, they gotta go searching for this one dude and they don't fucking find him. So they don't find him or a fucking pig. Soldiers are starving. There's been rumors of potatoes. They end up finding some. They also find the lower half of that one soldier a couple days later. So randomly at night, a soldier has to take a shit, ends up stepping in the hole that they dug for shitting, and ends up cleaning his foot in the fucking rice bowls or whatever, rice fucking buckets. So some of the rice has fucking literally the dude, well, not the dude's shit, but the shit from the hole in the food. And they have to fucking eat it. And I mean, just because the guy lost his fucking shoe, now he's like doesn't have a fucking shoe anymore. So just also showing that resources are fucking like diminishing and depleting, and you really can't replace some of this shit, and it's not gonna fucking be replaced anytime soon, if at all. The leaders are relentless in the punishments, man. Constantly beating the shit out of them. They end up fishing with grenades, and you'd think that one of the soldiers would potentially get hurt from the grenades, but one of them ends up choking to death on a fucking fish. They can't even fucking help themselves. They fucking start chowing down on a fish, not even preparing it, and then they fucking choke on it, man. You get to see some of the personalities of some of these soldiers, and for some of the dialogue, I mean, when they're trying to even fish with the grenades, they're like, let's just take our time. So, like, you know, they're so overworked, they're fucking starving. They're now trying to find any way necessary to just make it a little easier on themselves. One soldier's saying it's like prison, the other one's saying it's fucking hell. If it wasn't for this war, it'd be pretty peaceful here. Page 77 is the first time these soldiers are attacked by the enemy via plane. Based on the description of the plane, they're saying it's American. So, I mean, once again, I'm an American, so it's just kind of fucking weird as hell seeing, once again, like, these are, you know, technically these guys are the enemy, you know what I mean? You're not supposed to have any sympathy for, you know, the enemy. The story just shows that we're all fucking human. Starting on page 86 is an enemy air raid. The enemy bombing is a failure, and none of the soldiers are killed, fortunately. The tension totally reminds me of the movie Das Boot. I'll say it again, man, they are relentless with the punishments. The rookies are fucked. The enemies lay down gunfire on page 93, so now the soldiers are face to face with the enemy. One of the soldiers gets shot, and it's decided within seconds to just leave him there, but they need to have some kind of proof that they died, so they end up chopping off his finger with a shovel. It's also raining like a motherfucker, so they're having a difficult time chopping it off. Fucking savage, man. Not too much later, the soldiers are deciding a plan to ambush the enemy, when the enemy ends up fucking ambushing them. That's on page 100. In unrelated news, ants took my motherfucking Cheerios. So they're able to stop the enemy, but they're also able to get the enemy's supplies. The soldiers are rummaging through the food and supplies, and they're acknowledging that they don't have it as good as the enemy. One of the soldiers is so fucking hungry, they end up biting through an aluminum can. One of the soldiers says, now that I've eaten all this food, I can die a happy man, and a couple other soldiers start laughing at him. Gallows fucking humor, man. Later on, there's a brief encounter with a submarine, followed by another bombing air raid. Once again, no one gets killed by the bombings, but because of the bombings, there's a chance that some of the fucking dudes that went in hiding got eaten by alligators. If they didn't have to deal with nature, they'd probably be doing okay. Because there's a corporal missing, they end up fucking like looking for him instead of actually building camp or doing anything else. The higher-ups tell them to stop looking for the body. It's just wasting time. At the very top of 135, it says the enemy has arrived, and 138 says that the camping ground has turned into a wasteland. From all the bombing and all the fucking fighting, all that work gets turned to shit. Shigeru can really draw clouds, man. By 143, the enemy is coming in through fucking planes, fucking ships. I mean, they're fucked, man. With the few men that they have, they disperse into a couple of groups and fucking hope to hold off the enemy. As far as I'm seeing, it's just these soldiers. There isn't any fucking tanks, there isn't a fucking car, there isn't a fucking plane, no ship, but they're dealing with planes and fucking ships right now. Like, they are so fucked right now. It's fucking raining gunfire. They're getting bombed. They're fucked. Dude didn't even have enough time to take a piss and he got fucking killed. Now they're dealing with a fucking tank. Because of all of this, instead of guerrilla warfare tactics as suggested, in which they retreat and, potentially last a lot longer as a troop, they decide on a unit to go on a suicide mission. While airplanes are dropping bombs, they still gotta get water, so one of the dudes has to go and fucking fetch water. Needless to say, he does not come back with water. On page 183, one dude gets shot in his eye, and his eyeball falls out of his eye socket. Body count is fucking flying right now. Can't forget the malaria. There are grenades that are being tossed back and forth that have yet to go off. Like, this is once again a fucking graphic novel, but this is like real shit. Like, fucking goddamn. One of the soldiers on page 203 has a bomb dropped right on him, and he explodes into pieces. After getting their asses kicked long enough, they decide to retreat and decide on a plan of what to do next. They're thinking about, once again, doing guerrilla warfare tactics, but they probably can't afford to last that long based on malaria and food and supplies and whatnot. So the plan is fucking a suicide mission again. There's inner fighting between the leaders, and like one of them's like, I'm not fucking doing this. This is ridiculous. Let's just do this guerrilla warfare tactic. We'll fucking live a lot longer. We'll have a better chance of surviving. The other one's like, I don't want my soldiers dying like dogs. Which then the other one retorts back that doing a suicide mission is dying like dogs. I believe it's been decided that they're going to wait a couple of days. One of the soldiers is thirsty as hell, so I suggested to him to chop some vines and drink some of the water that drains from it. Because plenty of the other soldiers have already chopped the vines around them, he has to go a little bit further out, which results in him stepping into enemy territory and getting shot and killed. I should have said this earlier, but the panel layout has been spectacular for the story. Sometimes an artist can be really fucking shitty with the panel-to-panel layout, and you don't understand anything that's going on. That is definitely not the case here. A sergeant is mistaken as the enemy and is killed. Shot in the gut while grenade in hand. The grenade detonates and all that's left is the lower half of his body. If we keep eating uncooked rice, we're going to have many more men get sick from malaria. Sir, I heard they're bombing Japan every day now. If everything at home is crazy like that, what are we doing fighting a war here? I have no idea. Just go to sleep and dream about eating sushi or something. Sushi! You could have some tea with it. Forget about that. I'm having sukiyaki. One of the soldiers becomes fucking delirious. It's been decided they're gonna do a suicide charge. Plenty of gore in this book, man. Captain is missing part of his leg after being shot. Just a large chunk in the shin. Or calf. The men, bathed in the enemy's concentrated gunfire, were unable to move at all. The cross-hatching landscape on pages 254 and 255 are very fucking beautiful. The remaining soldiers regroup and decide to retreat just to fill up on food before their final suicide charge. The landscape on page 259 is also elegant and beautiful as fuck. Even on page 258, man. It's now April 30th, 2020. So it's already been sent that that one troop that was sent on a suicide mission should be already all dead, but they're not, which really pisses off the higher-ups. So now they're going to go and find that regroup troop and force them to go and kill themselves, essentially. The regroup troop are just kind of like sitting around on this beach, and they're just kind of like going like, well, we don't want to fucking kill ourselves, man. We want to be alive. Like, why can't we live? The doctor of the group decides he's going to go over to the higher-ups and talk to them to hope that they can spare their lives, which the higher-ups have no fucking intention of doing. Once again, this is based on real life. The doctor ends up killing himself. Before the second suicide charge, the higher-ups force anyone responsible for getting these men to this one area to fill up on food to commit suicide. They're going to die anyway. I don't know why the hell they had them commit suicide. I guess it's just rules. All you NCOs do is grumble. Before they even get to do another suicide charge, there's another fucking bombing air raid. The artwork of the back covers on page 343. They now lead the charge. One of the higher-ups tries to get away because they don't want to fucking die. Flying body parts everywhere. Before long, the nightmarish evening was over. Maruyama regained consciousness with a start as the eggs laid by flies in the bullet hole in his cheek began to hatch. Guess everyone died feeling like this, with no one watching, no one to tell, just slipping away, forgotten. The last couple of pages show bodies littered all over the place. The last page shows just the bones of the soldiers who have decomposed through time, where they had fallen. So in conclusion, there's two perspectives that you can see here. One is just fulfilling your duty, or just being one more gear in the system. And the other side is actually seeing yourself as a human being and seeing others as human beings and wanting to fucking live. Shigeru was very successful in this book in showing how much the soldiers were starving, the disease they had to deal with, the nature that they had to deal with. I mean, literally, once again, they were dying before even the enemy got to them. I don't know that much on the history of Japan, but in terms of why they might do suicide charges, I mean, they're definitely a smaller island, so they definitely don't have as many soldiers or as much of an army. So with that kind of desperate plea for survival, it makes the soldiers want to, end up killing more, potentially. I mean, just potentially being a little bit more useful than if they were to just, become prisoners or, I guess surrender in general. Because if you show that you're this harsh-ass predator, you might be left alone, and you might even have a lot of fear of this predator. Unfortunately, Japan's just a fucking island. Well, in some ways, because of how brutal they were, it's kind of fortunate that they were just an island. Unit 731. As an American, I've only seen pretty much movies based on World War II and World War I, and through the perspective of an American, most likely. So it was really nice to see the perspective of a Japanese warrior through World War II in this book. It just allows for more perspective, more understanding. So Kotaro is a series of stories. It's just different issues, essentially. This is definitely a graphic novel. Just one story, just the beginning and end of a troop or squad or whatever the fuck being sent off into enemy terrain and having to survive, even though they don't have the resources or the fucking men. And when you don't really have that many resources around you, you kind of are back to that hunter-gatherer kind of format or equation. And if you don't know the terrain, or you're not really you're definitely ill-equipped to handle the terrain, you're gonna just fucking one by one drop like flies. Another reason as to why you'd want your soldiers to all die or whatever is because then they can't talk about what happened in the battlefield. They wouldn't, it's just less details to talk about or bring home. It makes it way easier to manipulate a society. I'm also very fortunate to live in a society that doesn't draft their citizens. Also quite thankful for that. This book is a very powerful statement. I mean, clearly it's anti-war, but, if you were to, release this book in the wrong fucking country, most likely the artist/writer would probably get fucking murdered or killed. Simply because they're keeping it fucking real. I also think it's kind of like a story about being outmatched and having to accept it. Or suffer the consequences. I mean, honestly, that doctor was probably the most rebellious person or character in the entire book. It's just kind of crazy that there weren't more defective soldiers or just people that just kind of rebelled in general, just saying, fuck this. But I think it's just, with all those punishments, I think just literally ingrained in their fucking soul. I mean, they literally got slapped around for fucking doing anything, essentially. There were literally times where they got hit for no reason, and I think it was just literally to kind of, in a way, I mean, it's to fuck with them, but it also kind of, if you kind of like step out of it, just kind of shows you like at any point in time, you know what I mean, you might get attacked for no reason. There might be a reason. But I mean, at the same time, I think also it was kind of showing like, you know, who's superior, and to not fucking forget it. Once when the air raids started coming in, it was pretty much over. No planes, no tanks, no fucking ships. They were fucked. And like they said at times where some of the soldiers couldn't find any water, so they just ate their rice dry, and that also resulted in getting more of a chance or making their malaria worse or something like that, or getting a worse version of malaria or something like that. I can't remember. But regardless, just the fact that they had to eat rice fucking dry. Finding water got difficult. And like I said before, it was like a fucking hunter-gatherer kind of situation. I feel like I said everything that I wanted to. So with that being said, thanks for listening, and take it easy. Rest in peace, Shigeru Mizuki.